Good evening, everyone. I hope you all had beautiful days today. It was nice and sunny, at least in minutes, here in Tooele Valley. Lots of clouds still. We have a little bit of snow on the ground where we should have a lot of snow on the ground, but better some than none for sure. And so tonight, being garden planning Q&A, is there anything that you guys would like to ask about the season? Anything that you'd like to get your hands involved with, or anything that you are experiencing? Of course, Tammy's got a full garden going out there, both indoors and out. So different experiences for all of us, right? Benny and I, we're not in that group, but is it Kendez, Vanessa, and Tammy, right? Yeah. So all three of you have a little bit different growing feel in your environments right now than Benny and I do.
Well, I'm on my second trial of the uh the sprouts. So I got a new batch going. Only started like 2 days ago, so nothing's come up yet. But that's in the works.
Nice.
hmm
What is your temperature? Is it still something where you could grow cool weather crops outside if you wanted to right now, or are you a little too cold?
Oh no, now it's just fine. It's you can go outside with a t-shirt if you want.
Ethel had 77 degrees the other day.
Yeah. I think we were around that like low 70s, I would
Mhm.
say. High
That's
60s.
the perfect weather, right? I love that temperature.
hmm So
And is it projected to get cold at all for you guys, or more stay to where you could at least grow some cool weather crops? Like 77 is kind of pushing it for cool weather crops, right? Let me go back to our chart over here. I need to post it on my wall until I memorize it by heart. So I'm on chapter 8. I want to say that it's somewhere right around here. Yes. Okay, great. So warm is 65 to 85. How cold are you getting at night? Ken does.
at night it's a little bit chilly, so like I'll say mid to lower 60s.
Lower 60s. So with a little bit of protection, you could be having warm weather crops right now.
Hmm. I
So
mean,
not eggplant, but perhaps a cold hardy tomato or
or
pepper
broccoli is starting to
come back.
make more broccoli. So,
Interesting. Not from seed, but from the actual plant that was already there.
hmm
Wonderful. I guess maybe in your climate it could be a perennial.
All right.
That's fun. That's a lot of fun.
hmm
So since we've talked much, guys, I found out that Tooele's soil is so filled with clay. I had no idea. Colorado soil is not predominantly clay. I don't believe. Gosh, you think these things. Cortez, Colorado, primary soil composition, clay rich, silty clay loam or clay loam textures. Yeah, so it has a significant amount of organic material. It's not like what I've heard about in some parts of Alabama. And from my understanding, Alabama has a lot of red clay, but in the parts where it's not too predominantly clay, they're just supposed to have phenomenal soils, right? So nothing to that level. But when it says loam, that lets you know that it's going towards the direction that you want it to. So the soils in Cortez, like I had thought, needed a lot less amending than what I'm finding out they do here in Utah. 6 hours, a little bit west and up north, right? And we're still in the Rocky Mountains, the high desert. It's amazing how 6 hours makes that much difference. And, 6 hours being about what, 350, 400 miles, depending on how a person drives. So that's a significant chunk of area. Of course, our country is huge, and so it's still relatively small as a country. But when you're thinking about, I always think about when people didn't even have horses, right? And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the books, the Clan of the Cave Bear series. Oh my gosh, I fell in love with those books when I was about 12 years old. And for those of you who have read it, you're going to probably think, oh my gosh, she was reading those at 12. Well, I'll tell you, my mom and my aunt weren't sure what to do about it, but I was already in love with the book, so they let me read it. And it talks about a time period when it's still predominantly Pangea and we're still interacting as Homo sapiens with Neanderthals and perhaps for Floresians. Of course, they are described as their own tribe in the book. They don't use our terminology. It's a fictitious tribal structure that has been created and everything. But I think about the fact that in that book, they talk about it taking a year to walk from a certain part to another part if everything worked out perfectly. And how long would it take for us to walk this, what we consider a 6 hour distance? And that's really what matters when we're talking about climate, when we're talking about niche environments. We're in the high desert, we're in the same basic growing zones, we have similar amounts of rainfall and snow and plant types and all of these things. And yet that 6 hours difference makes this huge change to the soil. And so when you're thinking about it like that, I think it's really more applicable to think about having to walk that far. That's how much change in the geography happens when we're doing those kinds of drives, right? And so I did a lot of research getting all these things ready for the garden consults, for us here, of course, and the chatbots, the LLMs, I should say, they know where I live, right? And so while they understand that I'm talking more nationally, they tend to give me an idea of what Tooele specific is as well. And so I've just learned so much about this region that I now live in. And the soil here is ridiculously filled with clay. We have extreme heat, just like all of the Southwest. We have very high winds here, comparable to Wyoming in severity, if not in the level of constant winds. And so that's a lot to deal with. And those are the things that I'm going to be dealing with when I'm going into my consulting, right? And so those are the things that you want to find out about your area. What is the predominant soil type? Now, that doesn't mean you have exactly what the predominant soil type is, but it's a good place to start. And then they have these relatively inexpensive little home kits that you can get and test. You can also usually send them off to your county cooperative extension offices. Sometimes you can get them done for free. And so there are a lot of choices out there. Technical colleges, community colleges, a lot of times will also help you with things like that. So you can definitely find out what your soil's base components are, what nutrients it has, what it's lacking, right? All these things are something that you can easily do in your own manner. You don't even have to involve the cooperative extension offices or the colleges, right? You can literally do it yourself. And I think that that's a really fun thing to do. And I have the kit, but I've always been too busy with all the moves. So this probably next month we'll go out, and I won't be able to bring you guys along with me unless I win one of the grants I've applied for us and I have better recording equipment, but we'll be able to record it and then I can bring it in and we can watch it in here going over what it looks like to test your soil. There are, of course, tests that you can do without even purchasing anything. And I just posted an article for you guys last night. The best ways to amend soil after a cold winter to set your garden up for success. It was a very good article. I really liked it. And I took it because my Microsoft Bing Copilot Edge, right? Whatever all those words are, it's not my preferred. I'm a Google girl. I totally own it. And so they give me all these stories because it's a Microsoft browser, right? So you get all these notifications for your stories every day. So I end up reading a ton of material off of Microsoft. And I was working with Copilot to break down what this excellent article was talking about for you guys. And we worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. And so this is a printable spring soil prep checklist. And we can walk through all of this together. I already have the little kit and I can show you. It's very inexpensive on Amazon. That's block 1, test and evaluate the soil. And there are tests that we have built into our garden planner. So let me just pull up another tab over here. Oh, we better get out of there. Those are all of our scheduled posts, so you don't get a sneak preview. Now, in the garden planner, I believe, let's just pull up our weekly checklist for January. I don't believe it's in January. I think it's in February. Yes. Okay, so let's go to February. I don't quite have a breakdown of it yet as a checklist, but I do have an overview. Here we go. Okay, so week 2, and this isn't visible to you guys yet, but let's just go ahead and make it visible because it's applicable to what we're talking about right now. All right, and so we're going to jump into week 2 of February. And this is where we have some soil tests that you can do without purchasing anything at all. All right, you have the jar test, the fist test, and the water absorption test. And these are all things that you can do simply with the soil that you have, a shovel for one, a little trowel for another, very easy things that you can test and have validity to do at home. And we'll also go over the chemical testing, all right? Because this isn't going to tell you your NPK, right? Your nitrogen, potassium, and, oh, I always have a hard time with the last one, phosphorus. Those are the NPK, I believe. Let me just double check. Chemistry is not my strong suit. NPK is what? Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So I'm saying it incorrectly. It's nitrogen, then phosphorus, and potassium is the K. Okay, so nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, though, those are your 3 main nutrients. And it's kind of funny. My mother shared an article with me from Epic Times called The Glyphosate Girl. And I shared it in here for you as well. Let me pull up just another one really quickly so that you guys can check it out if you would like to. Go to what's new today. And we obviously don't post much on glyphosate, so we'll pretty well get there right away. Okay, glyphosate girl. She's fighting glyphosate, not a proponent of it. And one of the things in the article is her direct quote talking about chemicals are bad. Well, but that's a very incorrect way of using the word chemicals. I am all chemicals. You guys are all chemicals. Every single thing in my office is chemicals. All of the planet is chemicals. There are chemicals that are toxic. There are chemicals that are nutritive. There are chemicals that are neither, right? So chemicals is a very, very misused word in our society. And so when she says chemicals are bad, she means toxic chemicals are bad, man-made pesticides and things of that nature, those types of chemicals. There are a lot of others. We'll talk about what the article is. I don't want to go into politics, but the type of chemicals that we manufacture or pull from the ground, right? Because when you go and you pull crude oil from the ground, it didn't get manufactured, but you still certainly wouldn't want to drink it, apply it to your body, bathe in it, nothing. It's disgusting. And it's a purely straight from the ground, unprocessed, unmechanized chemical form, and it's still toxic, right? Uranium, before we do anything to it, it's still toxic. However, we can take something like wheat that should be non-toxic, and then we can strip all of its good stuff down and leave you with the filler. And that's another thing that's going on currently politically, and we won't, again, get into too much of the yeses or nos. I really don't believe in either side. I believe that we should take it back for ourselves, and that's a big part of what collectively rewilding is. Who cares what they're saying? I think they mostly have it wrong no matter which side you're talking about. So what can we do? We can take back our food. We can take back our own behaviors. We can take back our interactions with nature. We can take back our communities. We can take back our personal interactions with the people around us. And we can determine how we interact with this world. And that's not to say that I would always get these people that would pick on me when I was a child, right? We're all picked on as children about something. And I was an avid environmentalist from the time I was very young. And so, oh, well, you need to go live in a cave, you hippie. I'll tell you what, you give me a southwest facing cave in a good place, I will take it. It would be wonderful. I would love it. And of course, I would do some things and not just live in a cave. But these these thoughts, these whole communication patterns that we have around the environment lead to more disagreement, when in all reality, we all want to see the climate affecting us positively, not negatively. It doesn't really matter what side of any spectrum you're on. You want to have your world functioning correctly around you. So all that we can really change is how we interact with our world. And if enough of us simply eschew the negative, toxic behaviors, products, all of these things, and come back to ourselves, taking back our own clothing, taking back our own education, all of these things, that's where our real power lies, right? And so that's what this woman has done. And she very much agrees with where Kennedy's going. She's got, her own take, and nothing is ever going to be what we each see it as. We have to make compromises. We're all individuals and we all see things a little bit differently, even when we have a lot of alignment. But she's been fighting it, and she's talking about a lot of things that are really important to all of us. And whether or not our government is allowing corporations to choose what's good for us, or allowing science, true science, to direct what is and is not good for us. And that's the debate really kind of on the table right now. And so it does affect us. If the world were to go completely to something like Monsanto seeds, you could not grow products, grow fruits, grow vegetables, then process those fruits and vegetables, get the seeds, and grow your next year. You have to keep buying your seeds forever from the companies that have genetically modified them. There have been those that are not thought very well of in history who have said things like, if you control the food, you control the people. So we want to control our own food, guys. This is a big, big deal. Far, far bigger than any of us individually. And the more of us who take back control of our food, the less power they have over us. We take back our education, then we start creating an entirely new thought process. When we are the primary drivers of the next generation's education rather than corporations, teachers don't even get to pick the curriculums anymore. Only those children who are in private schools or homeschooled have curriculums that are chosen by the educators. When your children are in public school, those teachers are almost never even allowed to pick the materials that they're teaching. So we want to take that back. As you know, many of you, I have a lifetime spent in the education thought process, the history of education, the active process of education, the newer thoughts in education. And one thing is certain, when education is dictated at a high level and those in the immediate moment have no control over what they're teaching their students, the students suffer. And that's the model that we have today. And that's the model that we have with our food and all of these different things. So just think about, what do you want? Because that's what matters. It doesn't matter what anyone else tells you. Do you want someone else having control over your food, or do you want to have control over your food? Do you want to know what's in your food, or would you rather just have it be easy? Right? These are the choices that we all have to make. And so I encourage you guys to check this article out, see what you think about it. I feel like there's a lot of confluence right now in the world, where a lot of people that have been hardcore one side of the spectrum or another are recognizing that really those people up there at the top probably don't have our best interests at heart, no matter what color they swear to. And that most of us down here on the ground, we really do have a lot of commonality in what we want. We want happy, healthy kids that are able to go out and go into the world and be successful, and have their own happy, healthy kids who are able to go out into the world to be successful. We want to be able to have some comforts. We want to be able to go to a work that environment that is healthy for us. That's across the board. It doesn't really matter what color one espouses. And I think that more and more we're seeing that. And one of the biggest ways that we can step away from their machinations, that's what they are, machinations, the more we actually choose our future. And so that's what we're doing here. We're choosing to take our own back. It's not even talking about civil disobedience. That is a whole nother conversation and it belongs somewhere else. I'm simply talking about where we can take back control of our own bodies, of our own health, of our own medicine, of our own food, of knowing what is going on in our communities. That's where the how-tos for community outreach is really about. Get out there, know what the other people in your community are thinking and feeling. And I can almost guarantee you're going to find a lot of people that feel very much the way that you do. So sorry to get up on that soapbox a little bit, but there's a lot going on. And I really think it's time to stop worrying about the colors and start worrying about what colors we're growing in our garden, right? Because that is true control over our own future, no matter what happens. If you're dependent on those grocery store shelves and the powers that be choose to lose their minds and go to World War III, you're dependent on those shelves. If they don't have food on them, you don't eat. If you have control of your own food, you can help others even who can't find food on those shelves, right? And that's really what the hope is. The hope is, just as I've already managed to, because I have the most wonderful neighbor in the world, start off here, even though we've only been here for a year, there are 2 households that are going to be moving towards more self-sufficiency with our food. And because there's going to be 2 properties that are, his might even be a full quarter of an acre, we're talking about almost a half an acre here working together towards that goal. And then I have high hopes for this other corner over here, a lady that's already friends with us and doing all of that. I think that she will probably let us do what we want in her yard as well, because she doesn't really do anything with it. And I know that she gets a little bit overwhelmed with all the things that are on her plate that she has to take care of. So if we could get something set up for her that she didn't have to do a lot for, I know that she would be pretty excited about it. So that right there, because her property is really nice size as well, we would be probably pushing 3/4 or just over 3/4 of an acre. And with this being a 4-person household, one person, for 6 people, that's going to be a lot of ability to handle our own fruits and vegetables outside of those things that just don't grow in this locale. We don't have a nice big greenhouse to have some banana trees and some mango trees and papaya trees and all of this, right? We'd be lucky if we could pull off like 1 lemon and 1 fig tree or something like that. But it's still going to change the entire corner right here. And if the 3 of us do that, then there's quite high probability that somebody else will start talking to us about it and wanting to do something like that. And then you start spreading that out in that whole community. And then if something horrible like World War III happens and those grocery store shelves are getting a little bare or completely bare, you have this whole community that's already working together to be able to keep it self-supplied with what it needs, right? And so I don't talk politics to tell you what side to take. I talk politics to tell you, I think you should take your own side, right? That's whose side I think you should be on, your side and your community side, not on a political side, because the political side is just to try to keep us at each other's throats and not coming up to a solution. And that's something that I firmly believe and probably could prove to all of you if we wanted to take the time, but why worry about it? You all know that they tell us what they want to when they get elected, and then they do whatever they want to after they're elected. So in the end, we can only change what we can change about ourselves. And so together, as a whole of individuals, this is not a collective as a hive mentality. This is a group of people who are collectively doing similar things, supporting each other and encouraging each other to get back out there and become more of who we really were supposed to be, more in touch with our community, more in touch with our natural environment. They have proven this over and over with our scientific measures that being in a community and being in nature is a huge, huge boost to your health, to your mental health, to your longevity, to the happiness and success of your entire world, life, community, region, locality, day-to-day world. They will improve everyone's life that chooses to participate with those two elements. And I feel that that's a ever shrinking percentage of our population that really has easy access to those two elements, community and nature. So that again is something we can take back ourselves. And only we can do it. We have to take those steps. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to say, hey, Benny, hey, Candace, hey, Tammy, hey, Vanessa, let's let's do this. Let's change this. They're not. If you want a different world, you start with yourself, right? And a part of that is showing those around you who you are, who you want the world to be. And I promise people ask questions and they get intrigued and they get curious and they really start to pay attention and it becomes a conversation piece and all of these things. So I encourage you all just to think about what you would really like to see a year from now, 5 years from now, where you are, your inner space, your home, your health, your outer space, whether that's an apartment complex's outer space, your home's outer space, whatever your space may be, and then beyond that a little bit to your neighborhood, to your town or city. And if you're in some huge city like Los Angeles or New York City, probably we're thinking a little bit more like your neighborhood, right? That's where we start. And that's where we can make the most difference. And that's where we can have the most effect on our own futures for positivity, for what we want to see as positivity, not forcing it on others, simply modeling that which we believe would be a better tomorrow. All right, guys. So any thoughts? Nobody really had questions about their garden. I'd still love to answer it, but this has been out there and going on, and there's some major changes to like our food pyramid and things like that that I think I probably love. I am just so excited about the changes that are taking place as far as the way we're looking at our food, right? All right. I hope I didn't bore you guys, put you to sleep. I hope I instead gave you something to really think about because so many of us feel so bad so much of the time. And if you just go and look into the articles around the change to the food pyramid and think about how much of your daily food intake doesn't really look like what it started as, right? So a jelly bean, a Fruit Loop, a Hot Pocket, that doesn't really look like any kind of identifiable food, right? And so Epic Times put out this really neat graphic that showed what the cereal manufacturers do to create our cereal. See if I can find it. This is it right here. Okay, so I have an Epic Times article thing. You're good. Okay, so box claims made with real fruit. Okay, how are UPFs made? And I went and looked up what a UPF, ultra processed food. That's what a UPF is. Okay, how are UPFs made? Follow the cereal making process on the assembly line. Raw inputs. The process starts with cheap commodity crops such as corn, wheat, or soy. Extraction and refining. The grains are stripped down using heat, pressure, and chemicals, removing fiber, minerals, and vitamins. Cooking and fortifying. Next, they're cooked with salt and additives. Synthetic nutrients are added. Shaping, excuse me. The mixture is extruded, puffed, or flaked into fun shapes under high heat and pressure. Flavoring and coating. The cereal is coated with sugars, oils, flavorings, colors, and preservatives for taste and shelf life. Packaging. The finished product is poured into bags and sealed in colorful boxes, shelf ready. Color additives. The FDA plans to phase out petroleum-based dyes. Petroleum. What is petroleum? Anyone? Anyone?
Oil.
Yeah, not like food oil, like gasoline style oil, right? And that's a very simplistic breakdown of it, but that's what it's easy to picture as. They're petroleum based. So let's just look it up.
It's like they found every use they could of petroleum.
And fluoride. Fluoride is another one like that. Um, so what is it exactly? Petroleum, also called crude oil. Okay, remember how we started talking about that earlier and we said, it's still a toxic chemical even though it's natural? We probably don't want to go dig that stuff out and start drinking it. Oh my God, we're eating it though. It's processed, but we're eating crude oil. I mean, that's terrifying to me, right? So, okay, those are your additives. They're going to phase out petroleum based dyes, urging companies to switch to safer natural colors. Salt. More than 70% of American sodium comes from processed foods, not the salt shaker. Watch for hidden sources like sodium caseinate, I think, or disodium phosphate and monosodium glutamate. Sugar. Sugar hides behind many names, such as syrup, juice concentrate, or words ending in ose, O-S-E. To get the real picture, check the food label for the total added grams of sugar. Natural flavor. These are typically lab-made imitations created from various natural sources, such as plants, microbes, and even animal byproducts. As an example, fake vanilla is from, I believe, a badger's anal glands. I might have the animal wrong. Fake vanilla flavor is sourced from what animal? A secretion from a beaver's anal glands. That's in our food. So again, let's collectively decide individually what we would like to do better and move towards that, right? Supporting each other to make our own individual decisions as a collective group, always pushing for a more healthy and sustainable future with our food, with our land, with our water, with everything, right? So just to really give you a good idea of how very, very far we have gone from what our ancestors ate even 200 years ago is very sickening and disheartening and stressful. So again, what is the solution? Get out in that community, get out in that soil, and start feeling better by taking control of your own food. Even if it's on a windowsill, that's a start for Wendy, right? She's not here with us today, but she doesn't have a lot of options in her personally controlled space. That's why we're going to look into a community garden for her, perhaps at her apartment, perhaps nearby. There are also the options if she's near any homes and there are people there who would like to have gardens that don't have time to take care of them. You can work something out a lot of times where you do the gardening on their land and then you each decide some of what the produce that comes out of it and then you each get a portion of it and all these things. There are so many ways to approach having control of your own food as much as each of us individually can do, right? All right, guys, any thoughts before I do finally step down off of my soapbox? Were you grossed out at all? Were you shocked or were you already aware of the processing for our foods?
Oh
No,
no.
thank you, Sabrina, for letting us know all those yummy details.
Don't you want to know
No,
though? Really? Right?
not really.
No, you want to
Thanks.
just eat it and not know? You want to keep putting beaver anal secretions into your mouth?
Well,
Now I'm really got a visual of it. Now I'm probably gonna be
well,
looking at everything I eat now.
Just
most
eat
of
real food. Go ahead, Candace.
most
Oh
of the
my
people who
God.
do like corrupt stuff, for some reason, the government hires them into like big positions, like in the FDA and stuff. It's crazy because it's like, okay, this company got shut down or Enron got shut down, and then they go right back around and hire those people into government positions of all things.
George Carlin said it, right? It's a club and we're not in it. So let's take ours back, right? Let's not worry about them so much. Yeah, pay attention, keep an eye on it. It's always better to keep an eye on it and do what you can to influence the outer situation. And myself, I choose not to vote. If 3.8% of the eligible voting population in a population stops voting, it changes the trajectory for the better in a voting community, just as a piece. So that's my way of participating in that larger pool, is by removing my permission. I do not give my permission to our government to continue doing what they're doing. Now, there are some things happening right now that I approve of, and there are some things that I definitely don't approve of, but that's most of the time, right? But in the big scheme of things, how our country has gone over the last 200 years, our interactions with other countries, the way we treat ourselves as individuals, what we give away but then take from us, all of these things, without really gaining anything for the peoples of those other countries either, right? They're not in better positions for us giving that money. In fact, a lot of times I feel they're in worse positions. So that's how I participate out of that. But I think that each of us, and this is something that my grandfather believed, he was a World War II veteran, a decorated World War II veteran, and he wouldn't vote on any politician that he couldn't go and shake that guy's hand. If the politician was at a level that was too high for my grandfather to meet him at a round table or a town hall or something, right? Because even our senators come to our town, and you can go and meet your state senators. The federal senators, though, they probably aren't ever going to come to Cortez. And so my grandfather wouldn't have voted for them. The president is not ever going to shake my grandfather's hand. He's not going to come to Cortez, Colorado. So my grandfather wouldn't vote on it. He wouldn't keep any of his money in a bank. Remember, he went through the Great Depression and what all of that was. And so the more control we have over our own finances, our own food, all of this, the less able they are to manipulate us, whoever they are, because there's a lot of them, right? There's something like 357 billion, no, excuse me, 357, yeah, I think it's 357 million millionaires. It's still a pretty small group. I know I'm getting that wrong. That might be billionaires, 357 billionaires. And then you have all of the millionaires and stuff. It's a pretty small group, and they are all out to control everything that's going on. And the more we abdicate our own control, the less we can ever get it back, right? We've fought since the Magna Carta and before to strive towards more autonomous control as individuals. And if we don't maintain those structures of protection for our freedoms, it will be one hell of a fight to get them back, if humanity ever can. What we have in this country is different than anything has ever been in history. And they, as the people that started this country, didn't intend for us as the masses to have as much power as we have. And yet, all over the world, when we're doing well, everybody wants to come here. Why? Because we make our own choices. We choose whether we take control of our food. We choose whether we take care of our own physical protection. Many reasons why war has never come to our shores. One of them is that half or more of our population is well armed. These are choices that we make. Having gun safety, right? Then liberals, their stance is don't have guns because people die. Well, people can die from the use of fire. People can die from drinking too much water. We always have to make choices to make better choices. So gun safety is huge. And if all of those people are out there and they're trained in their use of their weapons, of course, a marauding army is going to think twice before approaching a well-provisioned army and then a citizenry that's half or more armed. If we provide our own food, they can't control us because they block the shipping lanes. All of these things, they are in our power to control, but only if we take that control. If we wait for someone else to do it for us, if we wait for other people to hand us our food, do you think that they're going to hand us better food in the future? So, just something we all have to think about, right? All right, guys. I have a hard time getting off of it once I get started, and I probably shouldn't have started, but I do think these things are very important, and I do think we all have to make our own choices, and that's one of the beautiful things about having the freedom to make our own choices. But I really hope that more and more people start choosing to assert their own natural, proper power of self, right? And so we will get back together with no more political talk, right? No more politics, no more preaching this Sunday, January 11th, with Tea and Talk with Tammy, and that is going to be at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Mountain, 1:30 p.m. Central, and 2:30 p.m. Eastern. And I will be back with you all later that same day, January 11th, for Yarn Yard for Tall Tales, and that is at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 6 Mountain, 7 Central, and 8 Eastern. All right, guys. I hope I didn't gross you out too much, and I hope you all have wonderful evenings, but I hope you also instead decide to care about what's going into your mouth and maybe think about making choices that don't involve crude oil or secretions from animals, right? So definitely have a wonderful evening. Good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody. Please feel free to unmute and say good night.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Good night.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You can get real vanilla, right? Real vanilla is what? Real vanilla, a plant product.
Yeah,
I
it's
highly encourage it.
aware of some of the stuff, but it's just crazy just to think about it, you know.
And that's our reality. It
Yeah.
really is our reality. This is not conspiracy theory. These are facts that anybody can verify right now, right? So, all right, guys. See you all soon.
You.
Bye, everyone.